Welcome back. It's time for Cheese and Packers. Barriere and Kelly Price. We're joined today by a first-time guest analyst, Andy Herman from Cheesehead TV and the Pack a Day podcast. Andy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Welcome. So, like you said, first-time newcomers. We have cheese. We have crackers. That's part of the process. Because how better to talk about the Packers than with some cheese? It's just what Green Bay does, and there's so much to talk about right now. We'll get to the good stuff. But first. Where are we going in the draft here? Let's start with tight ends. I know that's one position that the Packers have talked a lot about, or the people around the Packers have talked a lot about. What do you like about the position? What do we need there? And who are some guys to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting position. First of all, you look at Green Bay long-term. Really, Jimmy Graham only under contract this year and next year. There's two really strong tight ends at the top of this draft, both from Iowa, T.J. Hockenson and Noah Fant. I know a lot of people really know these tight ends and love these tight ends. T.J. Hockenson is a old-school tight end with a new-school skill set. So he has all the traits that you would want out of a dominant tight end in this league. Plays a lot like George Kittle, who also went to Iowa, but just a really, really nice weapon across the middle and a dominant blocker. When you usually watch highlights of tight ends, you're usually not looking for them to, block defensive linemen 12, 15, 30 yards downfield. You see that with Hockenson. Meanwhile, Noah Fant, fantastic receiving tight end. So just natural hands, 4.40 speed, just ridiculous athleticism. And he's somebody that's really going to be able to take the top off of the defense. If you play a safety or a linebacker up on him, he's going to run right past you. If you play off, he's going to hit all those intermediate routes and just kind of be able to box smaller players off. So two really intriguing options at tight end from Iowa.
And from the offensive side of the ball to the defensive side of the ball, another big need for the Packers is going to be at safety. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a Gator, so obviously he's my favorite one in the draft. Nasir Adderley and Juan Thornhill. What do you think of those guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no way I'm coming on Cheese and Packers without making a corny cheese reference. So yes. I know, you're welcome. So when you look at safeties, there are a lot of different ways that you can pair safeties, similar to cheeses. So of course you've got all your different flavors of cheeses that pair with different things. I think what Green Bay is going to want to do is they're going to want to take a look at what pairs best with Adrian Amos. Adrian Amos can do a variety of different things. I think he could really be used best as a box safety. Because of that, I really, really love Nasir Adderley, but I don't think he pairs very well with Adrian Amos because I think they bring a lot of the same traits to the table. And because of that, I think you would really be more beneficial to go with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who has that 4.40 speed. He can play in the slot. He can cover receivers. So I think that's going to be something that's really, really helpful for him. On the flip side, Juan Thornhill, the other two guys, 5'11 guys, Juan Thornhill's 6'1 and an absolute freak show as an athlete. So, when you are going to the Build a Safety workshop, you're hoping that Juan Thornhill is what's going to come out of that workshop. He just has every trait that you look for, and I think he would pair really, really well with Adrian Amos, which makes that such a seamless fit.
Last year around this time, the big talk was about an edge rusher. Brian Gutekunst decided not to make the big splash with the edge last year. Now this year's draft, he's come out and said he likes the what's on the board for the edge rushers, but who might still be available when it comes time for them to pick at 12? And are they willing to go that route now because of what they've done in free agency with the Smiths?
I think they should be willing to go that route. And, you look at Preston Smith and Darius Smith. Darius Smith is going to make his money actually as an interior rusher on passing downs. That's really where he was most dominant in Baltimore. Preston Smith is, of course, going to be that edge rusher. But when you sign free agents like this, a lot of times, let's be real, they don't always work out the way that you expect. You can get out of these contracts in 2 years pretty easily. So you want to start building younger, more talented players coming from within. And there's a lot of options. I think the big question mark right now is Montez Sweat. He has a heart issue. That's kind of some concern going around. If he passes the medical checks, he's a no-brainer type pick at 12. Speed, athleticism, talk about another athletic freak show. 4.40, he's the fastest in the last 20 years in the combine. The closest was Jimmy Graham, who was a tenth of a second slower than him. So just absolutely ridiculous speed. And then you take a look at a guy like Brian Burns, just an absolute quarterback hunter. He would bring a flavor to the table that Mike Pettin doesn't currently have in his arsenal. You've got Darius Smith, who again is going to kind of come in from the inside. Kyler Fackrell's more of a rotational guy. Preston Smith's more of a big physical one-arm defender. So you finally could have this guy who could bend around the edge, explode to the quarterback, and get there in maybe 3 seconds or less. That would be a really great option for them.
All right, Andy, real quick, I'm going to put you on the spot here with the 12th pick in the 2019 NFL NBA Draft. The Green Bay Packers select.
I'm going to go with Montez Sweat. I think the heart issue is more of a smoke screen, and I think Montez Sweat will be the next player for the Green Bay Packers.
Montez Sweat, there you go. You heard it from Andy Herman first. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to be sweating pretty good if we eat this entire board of cheese, but I'm up for the challenge. So, Andy, thanks for coming in today, and please, help yourself.
Thanks so much for having me.